Mikuru Yamori, the strongest cultivator to ever walk the land, stood alone against an entire army of demons. It was he who ended the Great Calamity, crushing the Demon King's forces and saving the continent from total annihilation. When the final battle ended, he believed everything was finally over, that peace had been won at last. But just as he let his guard down, his companions approached him with strange expressions. Before he could question their intentions, betrayal struck. A sharp pain tore through his body as a blade pierced him from behind. The one who struck him was someone he had trusted without question. Staring in disbelief, blood spilling from his chest, Mikuru realized the truth far too late. The comrades he had fought beside had turned on him. Rage filled his eyes as he glared at them, unable to comprehend their treachery. As he collapsed to the ground, he demanded to know why. His voice cracked with fury as he swore that even in death, he would never forgive them. With his final breath, he vowed to drag every last traitor down with him. Suddenly, his eyes snapped open. Voices echoed around him, unfamiliar, distant, calling his name over and over. A woman stood nearby, her face filled with concern, but all he could think was that he should be dead. As he looked around, he realized he was surrounded by strangers in an unfamiliar place. Confused and disoriented, he struggled to understand what was happening. Some students nearby snickered, mocking him for passing out during a test. One of them sneered, saying he shouldn't be called a young master anymore since he'd already been kicked out. Another girl ignored the commotion entirely, calling for Katama to return and set a new record. Katama turned with a smug grin, basking in the attention. The instructor urged everyone to continue the test. At that moment, memories flooded into Mikuru's mind. He realized he had been reborn into the body of a boy who shared his name. This new body belonged to someone from a powerful family, abandoned after his parents' deaths and cast aside as worthless. The realization left him stunned. Not only was he in another world, but this world functioned completely differently from his own. Here, people were unaware of cultivation. They lived surrounded by a faint energy called ki, yet none knew how to harness it. To Mikuru, however, it was unmistakable. Even in this weak, diluted environment, he could sense the flow of energy clearly. Relying on his knowledge from his past life, he began circulating it through his body. The effect was immediate. His meridians opened, his physique strengthened, and the familiar sensation of cultivation returned. With every breath, his body grew more refined. He even noticed he had grown slightly taller. His power had returned, only the very first stage, but enough. A fire burned in his eyes. One day, he would reclaim his former strength and return to his world. And when he did, the traitors who betrayed him would pay the price. For now, however, he needed to move carefully. This body was still weak, and he had to test its limits. When he approached the group again, a teacher asked if he was feeling all right. Calmly, he nodded and said he would participate in the upcoming 100-meter dash. Laughter erupted. A bully mocked him openly, pointing out that he was about to race against Katama, the school's record holder and a future college prospect. Katama and his girlfriend sneered, mocking him for even daring to stand on the track. Mikuru ignored them all. At his current cultivation level, even this body was far beyond ordinary humans. As they lined up at the starting line, Katama shot him a condescending glare, determined to humiliate him in front of everyone. The signal fired. Katama exploded forward at full speed. Mikuru, however, didn't move. The crowd burst into laughter, convinced he had frozen in fear. But a second later, a faint smile appeared on his face. 3 seconds, that would be enough. In the blink of an eye, he vanished from his spot. A sonic boom echoed as he shot forward, leaving only a blur behind. Gasps filled the air as students stared in disbelief. The bully's laughter died instantly, replaced by stunned silence. The teacher's eyes widened in shock. What he had just witnessed shattered everything he believed about human limits. Mikuru blew past Katama effortlessly, his speed so overwhelming it looked unreal. By the time anyone processed what had happened, he had already crossed the finish line. Behind him, Katama was still running, completely unaware he had already lost. The timer flashed. 9.88 seconds. A new record. The field fell silent. Katama collapsed to his knees, shaking, his face drained of all color as reality crushed him. The gap between them wasn't small. It was absolute. The difference between a cultivator and an ordinary human was like the difference between heaven and earth. As whispers spread through the crowd, Makuru calmly observed his own body. The potential within it was astonishing. Clenching his fist, he lifted his gaze. This was only the beginning, and one day soon, the world would remember his name. After the test ended, our protagonist headed to the restroom, taking a moment to process his new reality. He realized that, in order to reach the first stage of cultivation, he would need special medicinal resources. However, that realization quickly turned into concern. Those materials were incredibly expensive. When he checked the phone left behind by the body's previous owner, he saw that the remaining balance was barely enough to buy anything at all. He briefly considered making and selling talismans to earn money, but with only 1,000 yen to his name, he couldn't even afford the cheapest materials. Just then, someone appeared at the restroom entrance, staring straight at him. Moments later, several familiar faces followed, surrounding him with mocking expressions. Haru Osaki stepped forward, announcing that he was here to collect this month's protection fee, with Kama standing beside him. Memories surfaced. This body had been bullied repeatedly by these same people. Kidma, sensing something different about him today, warned Haru to be careful and let him handle it instead. The boxing club captain stepped forward confidently, declaring that dealing with a loser like him would be easy. He drew back his fist, convinced one punch would be enough. The old Makoto would have shut his eyes and accepted the beating, but that person no longer existed. This time, our protagonist calmly caught the incoming punch, shocking everyone present. From the perspective of a cultivator, a boxing club captain was nothing more than an ordinary man. Without hesitation, he counterattacked. One swift kick sent the first lackey flying. A powerful punch followed, slamming straight into another thug's face. Katama and the others stared in disbelief, unable to accept that this was the same Yamorii they used to bully. Fixing them with a cold gaze, he asked if they were scared yet. Before they could respond, he seized the remaining two by the hands and squeezed hard, effortlessly overpowering them. Their screams echoed through the hallway as they begged him to stop. Calmly, he told them not to rush. This was just getting interesting. Terrified, they pleaded for forgiveness, admitting they were wrong. With a single motion, he threw them aside like trash. Katama collapsed to the floor, trembling in fear. Haru attempted to flee while the chaos unfolded, but Yamori spotted him immediately. Shouting for him to stop, he charged forward and delivered a devastating punch straight to Haru's face. The impact sent him crashing into the lockers, leaving him crumpled on the floor, unable to move. Standing over them, our protagonist warned that next time, things wouldn't end so mercifully. Frozen in fear, Katama stared at him like he was a monster. The others trembled and begged him not to come any closer. With a cold glare, he demanded they return everything they had taken from him. Confused at first, they quickly realized what he meant and hurriedly agreed. After helping Haru to the nurse's office, the group disappeared without another word. Left alone, Yamori reflected that school life would only be a nuisance from now on. Still, at least he had recovered his stolen money. With that, he finally had the means to purchase cultivation materials and take his first true step toward revenge. With the money finally in hand, our protagonist begins refining the materials he purchased. Channeling his spiritual energy, he carefully pours it into the items, crafting talismans imbued with mystical effects. Focused and precise, he completes the final steps of the process. When he finishes, he looks down at the colorful talismans in his hands, confident that these would finally help him earn some money. However, 3 full weeks pass without a single sale. Everyone who looks at the talismans does so with suspicion, unwilling to buy anything. Frustration slowly builds as not a single person shows interest. One day, a sudden barking sound pulls him from his thoughts. He turns around and sees a small dog running toward him, badly injured. The poor animal collapses at his feet, completely exhausted. Seeing its condition, he quickly kneels down to examine it. Deciding to test his creation, he activates one of his healing talismans. A soft glow spreads as the talisman works, restoring the dog's injuries. Slowly, the animal opens its eyes, fully healed. Moments later, it jumps up excitedly, wagging its tail and rubbing against him in gratitude. As this happens, a well-dressed couple approaches. The dog immediately starts barking at them. The woman, Shizuru Suga, looks annoyed and tells her companion to take the mutt to a hospital, clearly not wanting to deal with it. But then she notices something strange. The dog appears completely unharmed. Surprised, she approaches and asks what he did. She explains that the dog had been badly injured and should not have survived. Noticing the paper in her hand, our protagonist protagonist asks if she is heading to visit someone in the hospital. That's when he realizes this might be his chance. He shows her the talisman he used and explains its healing effects. Shueida scoffs, calling him a fraud and accusing him of staging the entire scene. He even claims the man must have injured the dog himself. Ignoring him, Shizuru asks a more serious question. Can the talisman heal a person? More specifically, someone in a vegetative state. Our protagonist answers honestly, explaining that his power can even repair damage to the brain. He then reveals another talisman, stating that it would be suitable for such a condition. Shueida grows irritated and tells her not to believe such nonsense, but she ignores him. Our protagonist calmly explains how the talisman works and then states the prices. The cheapest at 200,000 yen, the most expensive at 400,000. Without hesitation, Shizuru offers 1 million yen for all of them. Her companion is stunned. Furious, Shueida tries to interfere, but our protagonist instantly grabs his arm, stopping him cold. With a firm grip, he warns him not to get involved. His tone alone is enough to make the man freeze in fear. With a single motion, he throws him aside. The deal is finalized. Before leaving, our protagonist adds 2 extra talismans, one for protection and another capable of unleashing a fire attack. He tells her calmly that he hopes she never has to use them. Deeply moved, Shizuru thanks him sincerely. As she turns to leave, she asks for his name. Shueida shouts that he's a fraud, but she ignores him, admitting she's willing to believe anything if it means saving her mother. As they depart, the small dog decides to follow him, refusing to leave his side. With money finally in his possession, our protagonist now has the means to find proper shelter. His next goal is to acquire rare medicinal herbs to accelerate his cultivation. Just then, the dog suddenly starts barking again, drawing his attention to a nearby estate. A powerful spiritual aura radiates from within the grounds. Curious, he approaches and discovers something incredible growing in the garden. Silver heartgrass, a rare and extremely valuable spiritual herb. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Shueida sat with his injured hand being treated by a nurse. Gritting his teeth in pain, he cursed under his breath, complaining that the man from earlier was nothing but trouble. Filled with resentment, he swore that the next time they met, things would be very different. At that moment, a tall, imposing figure stepped into the room. It was Kenji Suga, the city councilman. His expression was cold as he looked down at Shueida and demanded to know what had happened. Turning toward Shizuru, he asked sharply whether she had really fallen for some street scammer's lies. Nearby, 2 nurses whispered to each other, gossiping that the councilman's daughter had been fooled and had even spent a huge amount of money. Shizuru ignored them completely and insisted that she wanted to try just one more time. Clutching the talisman tightly, she said this was her final hope. Her father lost his temper, shouting that she had lost her mind. He couldn't believe she had been fooled by something so ridiculous. Enraged, he questioned what she thought she was doing. Shizuru turned to face him, her expression filled with pent-up anger, and accused him of never once visiting her mother while she lay unconscious in the hospital. She shouted that if he had taken action sooner, things might never have gotten this bad. With tears in her eyes, she declared that even if her mother died, he would simply continue on as if nothing had happened. Furious, Kenji raised his hand as if to strike her, but stopped midway, his expression twisted with rage. Letting his arm fall, he scoffed and turned away, coldly calling her insolent. Shizuru refused to back down. Her voice shook as she shouted that she would never stop trying. Stepping toward her mother's bedside, she clenched the talisman in her hand and swore she would save her. Suddenly, the talisman began to glow, releasing a brilliant blue light. Startled, Kenji turned around, demanding to know what was happening. To everyone's shock, the woman lying on the bed slowly opened her eyes. "Mom!" Shizuru cried out, rushing forward as tears streamed down her face. Kenji froze in disbelief before shouting for a doctor. A nurse and physician rushed in moments later, stunned by what they saw. After examining the patient, the doctor announced that she would make a full recovery and could return to a normal life within a year and a half. Shizuru stared at the talisman in her hand, realizing that it was the reason her mother had awakened. As it crumbled into light and vanished, the truth became undeniable. The doctor and Kenji stood frozen, unable to comprehend what had just occurred. Murmuring that it was nothing short of a miracle, the doctor looked on in disbelief. Shizuru turned to her father, her eyes filled with emotion, while Shueida stood trembling, beginning to wonder if the man who gave her that talisman was something beyond human. Overcome Overcome with emotion, Shizuru embraced her mother, who apologized through tears for all the suffering she had caused. Clutching the remaining talisman tightly, Shizuru vowed that she would find Yaorei and repay him no matter what it took. Meanwhile, our protagonist finally settled into his new residence. As he did, memories of betrayal resurfaced in his mind. His expression hardened as he swore that he would never forgive those who had wronged him. But first, he needed strength. To exact his revenge, he would have to reach the 11th stage of chi refinement. With determination burning in his eyes, he vowed that the day of reckoning was drawing ever closer. Lying on his bed, he realizes that the spiritual energy of this world is slowly fading. Because of that, he understands he'll need something rich in power to continue cultivating. Only rare materials or spiritual springs could help him progress. Fortunately, he remembers the silver heart grass growing inside his room. Unlike ordinary herbs, this plant can be used to refine pills that raise one's cultivation level. With this in mind, he decides to use it to create a pill and break through to the 2nd stage. Wasting no time, he heads out to gather the remaining ingredients. However, once he reaches the market, he quickly realizes the materials he needs are far beyond what he can afford. Even selling his talismans wouldn't be enough. As he walks through the area, he notices something unsettling. Those suspicious men are back, watching him again. They've been following him for days, and now it's clear they're ready to act. Tired of being watched, he decides it's time to confront them. Just then, a familiar voice calls out his name. A young woman approaches, surprising him. She asks why he hasn't been going to school and what he's doing in such a place. She mentions that he was kicked out of his home and assumes that's why he stopped attending classes. He remembers her as the classmate who once defended the body's previous owner. Feeling sympathy, she offers to lend him money so he can return to school. However, he refuses, saying he still has things he must do first. His strange behavior makes her uneasy, and she senses something has changed about him. Soon after, he walks into a narrow alley, fully aware that trouble is waiting. Determined, he prepares to deal with the people tailing him. A man suddenly charges at him with a knife, shouting as he runs. The others follow, yelling that he won't escape. They corner him at the end of the alley, blocking all exits. Instead of panicking, he calmly turns to face them. With a faint smile, he tells them that now they're the ones who can't escape. The gang reveals themselves, weapons in hand. Their leader grins, saying the fun is just beginning. With a cold stare, the protagonist asks who sent them and why they've been spying on him. The bald man laughs, mocking him for daring to challenge people far above his station. He even comments on how strange it is that someone from the Amirani family would take interest in a nobody like him. At that, memories surface. He recalls that the previous owner of this body had once been engaged to a girl from the Amirani family, an engagement broken when he was cast out for being weak. Deciding he's had enough, he prepares to force the truth out of them. Nearby, the girl who followed him realizes what's happening. Seeing the armed men, she panics and quickly calls the police, knowing he can't handle them alone. Suddenly, one of the men sneaks up behind her, grabbing her from behind and calling her Kitty in a mocking tone. He demands to know who she's calling. Hearing her scream, the protagonist turns sharply. At that moment, the gang's true leader arrives, and the others grow excited. The man seizes the girl by the hair, using her as a shield. He mocks the protagonist, saying he seems popular with the ladies. The girl screams for him to run, shouting that these men are armed. She declares that she's from the Makiyama family and that they'll regret touching her. The bald man only laughs, saying no one will know if she disappears here. As he raises his knife, preparing to strike, the protagonist moves. In an instant, he closes the distance. With a precise strike, he smashes the man's wrist, sending the knife flying. His eyes gleam coldly as he thinks that drawing attention isn't ideal, but letting himself be beaten isn't an option either. He follows up with a powerful punch that sends the man flying. The girl stares in shock, unable to believe what she's seeing. The remaining goons freeze, paralyzed with fear. Slowly, he turns toward them, his gaze icy and unwavering. Once again, he asks them the same question. Who sent you? Far away, a police officer receives an urgent call over the radio reporting suspicious gang activity. Officer Kaya immediately asks for the exact location. The dispatcher informs him that more than 30 men have gathered in an alley and have taken a young woman hostage. Without hesitation, Kaya floors the accelerator and calls for backup, even though he hasn't received approval from his superiors. Moments later, a warning comes through the radio. These criminals are dangerous and won't hesitate to kill. Worried, Kaya tries to contact the officer already on site, but receives no response. After a tense pause, the radio crackles back to life. A shaken voice reports that backup is no longer necessary. The officer explains that the man they were pursuing has already dealt with the entire group by by himself. The scene shifts to the alley, where our protagonist is standing calmly while gripping the gang leader by the collar. The bald man stares in disbelief, unable to accept that someone he considered trash from the Yori family could overpower him so easily. With a cold expression, Yamori demands to know who gave the order to target him. He gives the man 3 seconds to answer. Terrified, the gang leader screams in pain and begs for mercy. Just then, the classmate rushes in and shouts for Yamori to stop. Sirens echo in the distance as police officers rush toward the scene. One of them yells for Yamori to stand down and not take matters any further. Seeing the authorities arrive, Yamori hesitates. He knows he could easily deal with everyone present, but exposing his true strength now would only create trouble. Reluctantly, he releases the thug and steps back. The bald man collapses to the ground, gasping for air. Officer Kaya exhales in relief, amazed that a single person managed to subdue so many criminals. Approaching carefully, he introduces himself and praises Yamori for keeping the situation under control. The classmate also greets the officer, visibly relieved. Kaya informs them that the police will take care of everything from here. Yamori notices how efficiently the officers have surrounded the area, realizing the authorities had been watching closely all along. Soon after, another officer arrives, an older man with a commanding presence. He introduces himself as Chief Onaga and immediately places Yamori under arrest for assault. Producing a warrant, he smirks coldly as he orders his men to restrain him. The classmate protests loudly, insisting that Yamori was defending himself. Onaga questions her with a suspicious gaze, claiming all he saw was Yamori attacking others. One of the thugs even chuckles, backing up the chief's version of events. Officer Kaya steps forward angrily, calling the situation absurd and accusing his superior of twisting the truth. Onaga snaps back, threatening to strip him of his rank if he continues. Enraged, Kaya shouts that the chief is corrupt, only to be restrained by his partner before things escalate further. Watching everything unfold, Yamori realizes that someone powerful is manipulating the situation from behind the scenes. When Onaga mocks him, Yamori calmly asks how he knew he was just a student. The chief falters for a moment, realizing he's said too much. A faint smile appears on Yamori's face as he understands. This man is merely a pawn. Onaga quickly orders his men to take Yamori away. As he's being escorted, Yamori casually reveals a small button in his hand, the same one missing from the chief's uniform. Onaga's face drains of color as he realizes what happened. Yamori smirks and tells him that next time, he won't settle for something so small. Furious, Onaga swears vengeance as Yamori is taken away. Soon after, Yamori is thrown into a dark holding cell. Inside, a massive, muscular man sits quietly with his back turned, radiating a dangerous aura. A guard bangs on the bars, announcing that the man's next job has arrived. The prisoner slowly opens his eyes. His mission is clear: eliminate Yamori, and he accepts without hesitation. Our protagonist is escorted into the prison and immediately senses what's coming. As the heavy metal door slams shut behind him, he's shoved inside the cell. 2 large men stand watch nearby, their gazes cold and unfriendly. Calmly, he asks if this is where they plan to finish him off. A faint smile forms on his face as he takes in the situation, finding it almost amusing. In the dim light, he notices a massive figure sitting calmly in the corner of the cell. Sensing something different, he wonders if this man is the true threat. The giant finally speaks, explaining that he's never harmed ordinary people before. To him, those without strength aren't even worth the effort. With a cruel grin, he declares that the boy in front of him is no exception. Introducing himself as Faki Zenjo, the man explains that he was hired to eliminate him. Our protagonist meets his gaze without fear and asks whether Faki is just another pawn following orders. At that moment, he senses a strange energy radiating from the man. Faki releases his power, a pinkish aura spreading through the room, and announces that it is called Ryatsu. Despite the pressure of the overwhelming aura, our protagonist remains composed. Without warning, Faki lunges forward, roaring as he charges with lethal intent. But the attack misses, our hero dodges effortlessly. Faki's eyes widen in shock, unable to believe his strike failed. Calmly, our protagonist tells him that he may have misunderstood something. He warns that the truly weak one in the room isn't who Faki thinks it is. Enraged, Faki swings again, shouting that the boy is the weak one. This time, he manages to grab hold of our protagonist's leg and hurls him across the cell with brute strength. The impact sends him crashing into the wall, but he lands smoothly on his feet. Faki stares in disbelief, realizing he underestimated his opponent. Growling, he swears to crush him. In response, our protagonist releases his own aura. A deep purple energy surges from his body, filling the cell with pressure. In an instant, he charges forward and slams his fist into Faki's chest. The force of the blow sends the massive man flying, blood spraying from his mouth as he crashes to the ground. Struggling, Faki forces himself back to his feet, disbelief written across his face. He can't understand how someone so young could possess such power. Roaring in fury, he launches another attack. But before he can land it, our protagonist strikes again, this time with a devastating kick that shatters part of the cell wall. Dust fills the air as the ground cracks beneath them. Through the settling debris, our hero stands calmly, his gaze cold and unshaken. Faki, battered and bleeding, glares back with hatred burning in his eyes. Summoning what little strength he has left, he charges once more. Without hesitation, our protagonist intercepts him, driving a brutal punch straight into his face. The impact deforms his features and sends him crashing into the floor with bone-crushing force. As Faki lies there, broken and stunned, our hero approaches. A violent red aura erupts around him, his power surging wildly. Grabbing the man by the face, he lifts him effortlessly and demands to know who sent him. His voice is cold, filled with killing intent, as the purple energy surrounding him flares violently. Then, tightening his grip, he asks one final question. Who taught you how to use Ryatsu? Far away, Onaga receives a phone call and freezes in shock. He demands to know what kind of monster they've run into. Unable to believe it, he mutters that the boy is supposed to be nothing more than a failure from the Yaorei family. Unease creeps into his voice, as he hopes the situation can be resolved without things spiraling out of control. Trying to secure the outcome, he promises a promotion to the person on the other end of the line if everything goes according to plan. Back in the holding cell, our protagonist stands calmly before Faki. Bruised and battered, Faki lets out a dry laugh and admits that he severely underestimated him. Yomorii listens quietly as the man speaks. Faki then begins recounting his past, how he once encountered a mysterious monk who demonstrated terrifying power by splitting a massive tree with a single hand. He explains that the monk gave him a bottle of strange liquid and instructed him to drink it little by little. Ever since then, his body had undergone drastic changes, granting him immense strength. Hearing this, Yomorii immediately understands that the so-called divine water is actually a refined spiritual liquid, an extremely rare cultivation resource. Curious, Yomorii asks why someone so powerful would submit to working under others. With bitterness in his voice, Faki reveals the truth. His son is gravely ill. Despite all his strength, he couldn't save him. The spiritual liquid had no effect on the boy's condition. Desperate and out of options, he accepted any job that paid enough to search for a cure. Yomorii's expression softens. He tells Faki that the illness may be treatable and that he might be able to help. Shocked, Faki asks what he means. Yomorii explains that the liquid Faki consumed is dangerous for ordinary people, and that improper use can cause more harm than good. To prove his words, he activates a healing talisman. A warm green light floods the room, enveloping Faki's body. His wounds close instantly, and the pain he's endured for years vanishes in an instant. Stunned, he stares at his hands in disbelief. Yomorii then gives him a choice: reveal who sent him or walk away and watch his son suffer. After a long pause, Faki exhales and finally gives in. He admits the one pulling the strings is a man named Hashimoto Kosi. Far away, Hashimoto scoffs upon hearing about the incident, mocking Onaga for panicking over a nobody from the Yaorei family. Known as the owner of the Kasen Club, Hashimoto is the true mastermind behind the scenes. With a twisted smile, he casually asks if anyone would like a drink. The scene shifts to a dark room where a woman is chained and badly injured. Hashimoto approaches her with mockery, calling her a spoiled brat. Without hesitation, he rips the gag from her mouth and picks up a pair of pliers, calmly asking which tooth she'd like to lose next. Ignoring her screams, he violently pulls one out. Moments later, a subordinate informs him that Lord Ama has called regarding the incident. Unbothered, Hashimoto replies that the matter has already been handled and that he'll visit the police police station later. Back in the cell, Faki bows slightly and thanks Yamoriai, handing him a necklace as payment. The moment Yamoriai touches it, he realizes it contains highly condensed spiritual energy. His eyes light up. This alone could help the silver heart grass bear fruit and allow him to break through to the next stage. With genuine gratitude, he thanks Faki for the gift. Before leaving, Faki warns him that Hashimoto will now hunt him relentlessly, and anyone who crosses that man rarely survives. Yamoriai meets his gaze calmly and responds without hesitation. Then tell him I'll be waiting. His eyes harden with resolve as he adds that this time, he'll be the one hunting. Far away, a luxurious car pulls up in front of Nihai University. A well-dressed woman steps out with an air of confidence and elegance. It's Shizuru, the same young woman whose mother was saved by the talisman. As she walks toward the campus, she thinks about the strange coincidence that the man who saved her mother is now a student at the same school. Without hesitation, she heads straight for the administrative building, determined to find out which class he belongs to. Inside a classroom, Saki is arguing with a teacher, demanding to know why Yaorei was arrested. Suddenly, the door opens and a striking figure steps inside. The students immediately recognize her, Shizuru, a well-known upperclassman. Hearing the conversation, she calmly asks if they're talking about Yaorei. Meanwhile, at the police station, Officer Ka slams his fist onto the desk in fury. He can't believe his superior intends to release a criminal they've been chasing for years. His voice shakes with anger as he accuses the man of abusing his authority. The police chief glares back coldly, asking if he has any proof. Though furious, Ka has no evidence to present. Just then, the office door bursts open. Shizuru and Saki walk in without hesitation, demanding to know why Yaorei is being detained. The chief explodes in anger, shouting that even his own officers can't keep outsiders under control. He scoffs, saying Yaorei has no powerful background and deserves no special treatment. Ka shouts back that this is absurd and unjust. The chief coldly replies that internal matters are none of their concern. Saki fires back, asking why the gang members involved haven't been arrested as well. The chief's face darkens. He threatens to charge them with obstruction of justice if they don't leave immediately. Unfazed, Shizuru calmly takes out her phone and sits down, daring him to arrest her if he wants. Enraged, the chief orders his men to take both girls into custody. Officers begin moving toward them. Ka shouts again, accusing him of abusing his power. Shizuru looks straight at the chief and asks if he truly believes he can silence them with false charges. The man sneers and replies that insulting a government official will only make things worse. Then Shizuru calmly states that the criminals he's protecting have been working for him. The chief stiffens. She continues, saying that people like him believe power allows them to do whatever they want. With a cold smile, she warns that his actions won't stay hidden forever. Suddenly, she lifts her phone and asks aloud, "Director Oi, did you hear everything?" A voice responds through the speaker. The room falls silent. The chief's face drains of color as he realizes who she's speaking to. He stammers, asking if she's really speaking to Director. Shizuru introduces herself properly and accuses him of multiple serious crimes. The chief panics. Only then does he realize who she truly is and how deeply he's underestimated the situation. He now understands that Yaorei is connected to the powerful Suga family. The scene shifts back to the detention area. Inside the dim cell, Yamoriai feels the necklace Faki gave him begin to glow faintly. He looks down at it, realizing that the spiritual energy inside is growing stronger. He knows he can only use it once and must do so wisely. Footsteps echo down the corridor. A woman's heels click against the floor as she approaches. The cell door opens slowly, light spilling inside. Standing there are Shizuru and Saki. Yamoriai lifts his head, his eyes sharp with curiosity and resolve, as he faces the unexpected visitors. Far away, inside a luxurious mansion, a blonde man smashes a glass against the wall in rage. His expression is twisted with frustration as he snarls that everyone around him is useless. Sitting down heavily, he mutters that one problem is on the verge of collapse while the other has already landed in prison. If the plan fails now, he knows he'll be the one paying the price. With a grim expression, he decides to send out his best subordinate, but not to kill the target just yet. Clenching his fist, he swears that he will personally deal with that piece of trash when the time is right. Meanwhile, Yamoriai sits alone in his room, staring at the few belongings he has left. Letting out a sigh, he lays everything out before him. Faki's necklace, the silver heart grass, and the remaining materials. He begins refining once more, channeling his energy as a golden glow slowly spreads from the cauldron. As the refinement completes, a powerful aura surges outward. With the completed pill, Yomorii successfully breaks through to the next stage. Testing his strength, he activates his movement technique, Shadow Cloud Step, and vanishes in a blur. His speed has increased dramatically. Satisfied, he realizes that at this level, even bullets would struggle to touch him. However, the joy fades when he checks his remaining resources. The spiritual liquid is gone, and his funds are nearly depleted. If he wants to continue cultivating, he'll need a massive amount of money. Traveling to Ryuta normally would cost far too much. As he contemplates his next move, a commercial on the television catches his attention. An advertisement for an expensive cosmetic treatment promising eternal youth. His eyes light up. Smiling to himself, he realizes wealthy women would pay anything to preserve their appearance. The scene shifts to several hours earlier, during a lavish gathering at the Sugo estate. Shizuru explains that she had called the chief personally, asking him for a small favor. She then reveals to Yomorii that she owns one of the largest cosmetic corporations in the region. Inviting him to a private gathering, she explains that it's being held in honor of her mother. Back in the present, Yomorii recalls the opulent building, its luxury clearly reflecting the family's immense wealth. He realizes that this is his opportunity. Returning to the present, he holds the small box containing the Joyin pill. With a confident smile, he decides to use it as his entry into the upper class. At the party, several of Shizuru's relatives gather. Her uncles mock her, saying she's already too old to be unmarried and that she'll end up like her older sister, Masami. They openly ridicule Masami, calling her a burden and mocking her for being sickly. One of them sneers that if she were useful, she'd already be married off. The insults continue, and when Masami speaks up, they ridicule her further, calling her delusional. Shizuru steps forward to defend her, but the men only laugh. One of them sneers that youth fades quickly and mocks the idea of preserving beauty. He arrogantly claims no product in the world can reverse aging. At that moment, a calm voice cuts through the room. Yes, it can. Everyone turns in shock as Yomorii steps forward. His gaze is steady as he tells them that calling a woman used goods is disgraceful. He warns them that their arrogance has limits. The men demand to know who he is, but before they can react, Shizuru introduces him, explaining that he saved her mother's life. Her mother, seated nearby, nods in agreement, thanking him sincerely. Unmoved, one of the uncles scoffs, insisting the recovery was pure coincidence. Yomorii calmly introduces himself as a researcher and business partner. He explains that his work involves rejuvenation and health restoration. Then, holding up a small box, he announces that what he's about to show them is the reason he's here. He approaches Masami and asks for her cooperation. Hesitant but curious, she agrees. As he opens the box, a powerful glow spills out, illuminating the room. Inside rests the Joyin pill. The energy radiating from it fills the air, leaving everyone speechless. The uncle scoffs loudly, declaring that the pill is obviously fake and likely poisonous. Hearing this, Masami hesitates, her expression filled with uncertainty. She asks if it's truly safe to take. Shizuru immediately steps forward, saying she trusts Yaorei completely and would take it herself without hesitation. Their mother also speaks up, saying she believes in him because he saved her life. A few guests scoff, muttering that a rejuvenation pill is impossible. Hearing this, Yaorei calmly asks Masami if she truly doesn't want to feel young again. The words strike deep. Memories of being called old and useless flash through her mind. Clenching her fists, she finally makes up her mind. With resolve in her eyes, she takes the pill and swallows it. The room falls silent. For a moment, nothing happens. Some of the guests smirk, assuming they've just witnessed a farce. The uncle laughs loudly, declaring that he knew it was all nonsense. Then, a golden light begins to glow around Masami's body. Gasps echo through the hall as her appearance begins to change before everyone's eyes. Her skin becomes smooth and radiant, her posture straightens, and the signs of age fade away. The transformation leaves everyone stunned. The uncle and his wife stare in horror, unable to believe what they're seeing. Someone finally breaks the silence, asking how much the miracle costs. Calmly, Yaorei replies that one pill sells for 400,000 yen. The room erupts. Guests begin shouting offers, trying to outbid one another. The uncle's face turns pale as he realizes the true value of what he dismissed. His mind races. This is worth far more than he ever imagined. He quickly starts scheming, thinking he can use this opportunity to regain control. With a forced smile, he tries to calm the crowd and invites Yaorei aside, suggesting a private discussion. He offers 30 million yen for the formula, proposing a profit split where Yaorei would receive only a portion. Yaorei raises an eyebrow and calmly asks if if he means 30% for himself and 70% for the family. The uncle laughs nervously and corrects him, saying the opposite. Before he can say more, Shizuru steps forward. She asks what kind of connections the family supposedly has. The man stiffens. She continues, revealing that he has been embezzling funds and secretly draining the family's resources. Panic flashes across his face. He denies it loudly, but Shizuru calmly produces evidence. Bank records, transaction histories, and proof of misappropriation. The room falls silent as the truth sinks in. Masami and their mother stare at him in disbelief. The man begins to sweat, stammering excuses, insisting he was only trying to help the family. Shizuru cuts him off coldly, declaring that he used her mother's illness as leverage and bled the family dry. She tells him he's no longer welcome and that she refuses to protect him any longer. Desperate, the man collapses to his knees, begging for forgiveness. He claims he did everything for the family and pleads with Masami to help him. But she turns away, her voice firm as she says she can't forgive someone who exploited their suffering. Finally, Shizuru delivers the verdict. He can either face the consequences of his crimes or sell the company to her for a single yen and leave quietly. Stunned, the man can only stare in disbelief as the guests whisper among themselves. Some laugh bitterly, saying he got exactly what he deserved. With the matter settled, Shizuru turns back to Yaorei and thanks him sincerely. She tells him that many influential people are present and offers to introduce him to potential business partners if he wishes. Yaorei considers the offer, then nods. He says that a fair deal would be 40 million yen for the rights to the product. Shizuru agrees, warning him to be careful, but adding that she trusts him completely. Later that evening, she personally drives him home. As he steps out of the car, she compliments his place, surprised by how modest it is. He smiles faintly and tells her it's just a temporary place. Before leaving, he thanks her for everything. She smiles back, calling him a friend. The word catches him off guard, and he watches quietly as her car disappears into the night. Standing alone beneath the moonlight, he reflects on how much his life has changed in such a short time. For the first time, he feels that this new life might not be so bad after all. He turns toward his door and reaches for the handle, only to freeze. The door is slightly open. Inside, a dark stain spreads across the floor. As he steps closer, his breath catches in his throat. Lying motionless on the floor is the small dog that had followed him, a knife buried deep in its back. Rage ignites in his eyes as he stares at the scene, a cold fury rising within him. Far away, Aon reports to his superior that Yaorei has returned home with a woman. Upon hearing this, Akamasa's expression darkens. He coldly orders his men to capture the girl and make an example out of her. With a twisted smile, he says he hopes Yaorei enjoys the gift he has prepared for him. Back at the house, Yaorei rushes inside and freezes at the sight before him. The small dog lies on the floor, badly injured and barely breathing. Panic surges through him as he kneels beside it, checking for signs of life. Realizing the dog is still alive, he immediately activates a healing talisman, pouring spiritual energy into the creature. Just as the light flares, a figure lunges from behind. An assassin swings his blade, aiming for Yoriai's back. Sensing the attack at the last second, Yaorei twists aside and slams his fist into the attacker's face. The man crashes into the wall as the dog is gently set aside. Before he can recover, several more men rush in. Yaorei steps forward, his aura flaring violently. He tells them coldly that they shouldn't have come. One of the attackers charges, but Yaorei drops him with a single strike. Another lunges, only to be grabbed by the throat and lifted off the ground as if he weighed nothing. The remaining attackers hesitate, fear creeping into their eyes. But their leader orders them forward, and they pull out weapons. Bullets fly, but Yaorei moves faster than they can track, weaving through the gunfire with terrifying ease. As he strikes them down one by one, his voice echoes through the room, promising that none of them will leave until he gets answers. Elsewhere, Akamasa laughs darkly as he prepares his next move. He drags Shizuru into a dimly lit room, binding her as she struggles. Mocking her, he boasts about how she's the perfect bargaining chip. Just then, his phone rings. He answers smugly, expecting good news. Instead, he hears Yoriai's voice. The smile vanishes from his face. Yaorei calmly informs him that every one of his men has been dealt with. The line goes silent for a moment before Akamasa snarls in rage. He tightens his grip on Shizuru and threatens to kill her if Yaorei doesn't come alone. Yoriai's eyes burn with fury. He tells Akamasa to release her and warns him not to touch her again. The man only laughs, mocking him and setting a time limit before hanging up. Crushing the phone in his hand, Yaorei swears he will end this himself. Back at the hideout, Akamasa orders his men begun to prepare for a show. He turns toward Shizuru, grabbing her by the arm as she struggles. Just as he's about to begin, an alarm blares through the building. Confused, he demands to know what's happening. One of his men rushes in, panic-stricken, shouting that someone has broken in. Before anyone can react, the door is blasted open. A body flies across the room, crashing into the wall. Shizuru looks up in disbelief. Far away, a man on a motorcycle speeds through the streets, complaining into his communicator about a delivery. Glancing down at the address in his hand, he confirms he's at the right location. His eyes lift toward a large mansion ahead. This must be the place. Suddenly, a voice crackles through his earpiece, informing him that Yaorei has returned home. The man stiffens as he's told that Akamasa has already sent people to deal with him. Worse still, he learns that a woman has been captured as well. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the biker curses under his breath. He watches as a vehicle carrying the kidnapped woman speeds away. Without hesitation, he jumps on his bike and gives chase, racing through the streets at full speed. As he follows the trail, his phone rings. He answers while riding, reporting that he's tracked the kidnappers to a specific location. When Yaorei asks for confirmation of the address, the biker freezes. It's the same place he's been following. He tells him the truth and adds that the men have taken the woman inside. Yuriai's voice turns cold as he orders him to stay back and keep watch. He promises that he'll deal with the situation personally. The biker hesitates but agrees, knowing the danger ahead. Meanwhile, inside the mansion, chaos brews. Akamasa paces the halls angrily, shouting at his subordinates for their incompetence. He demands to know why the alarm is still active and why the situation isn't under control. Nearby, Faki watches quietly, sensing something is about to go wrong. Suddenly, a disturbance echoes through the building. One of the guards rushes in, reporting movement near the perimeter. Before anyone can react, a powerful presence fills the room. Faki steps forward, his aura flaring as he confronts the guards. Without warning, he strikes, dropping one of them instantly. He moves with terrifying speed, disabling another before they can react. Faki rushes to where Shizuru is being held. He grabs her hand and urges her to run. Together, they race down the corridor, trying to escape before reinforcements arrive. Just as they near the exit, a blinding flash erupts behind them. A shot rings out, tearing through the air. Faki is struck and stumbles forward, shielding Shizuru with his body as he collapses to the floor. Blood spills as he struggles to stay conscious. Behind them, Akamasa steps into view, weapon still smoking. With a twisted grin, he mocks Faki for daring to betray him. Barely able to stand, Faki forces himself up and faces Akamasa. The two lock eyes as tension fills the air. Akamasa taunts him, boasting about how everything is under his control. At that moment, another presence makes itself known. A cold pressure floods the area as a figure steps through the shattered entrance. Yaorei has arrived. His eyes burn with fury as he takes in the scene. The wounded Faki, the terrified Shizuru, and the blood-stained floor. The guards freeze in fear as he steps forward, his aura exploding outward. One of the men shouts, but before he can react, Yaorei strikes. The impact sends the guard flying across the room. The remaining men rush him, but he moves like a phantom, every strike precise, every movement deadly. One by one, they fall. As the last body hits the floor, Yaorei lifts his gaze to Akamasa. His voice is calm, yet filled with murderous intent. This ends now. From the impact of the blow, Faki coughs violently and collapses to the ground, blood spilling from his mouth. Surrounded by fallen men, he lies there helplessly, cursing his own weakness. Gritting his teeth, he blames himself for not listening earlier. If only he had acted sooner, none of this would have happened. Nearby, Akamasa sneers, watching the chaos unfold. With cold disdain, he declares that once everything is over, he'll personally deal with every last one of them. His eyes gleam with madness as he promises to carve them apart one by one. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light erupts inside the mansion. A violent shockwave ripples through the hall, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. When the smoke begins to clear, a figure stands at the center of the destruction, his body wreathed in a deep purple aura. It's him. The air grows heavy as our protagonist steps forward, his gaze cold and unyielding. He announces calmly that he has come to send them all to the underworld. Faki, battered and bleeding, lifts his head in disbelief. He curses under his breath, saying the man took far too long to arrive. Without hesitation, our protagonist tosses a healing talisman at him. The light envelopes Faki, sealing his wounds. Realizing what it is, Faki's eyes widen in shock. Before he can say anything, Akamasa roars in rage and orders his men to kill him. him. Gunfire erupts instantly as bullets rain toward the lone figure. But the attacks pass through empty air. Our protagonist moves faster than sight itself. In the blink of an eye, he appears behind the attackers, striking them down one by one. Bodies crash to the ground as he moves like a phantom, his presence alone freezing the remaining men in terror. Akamasa stares in horror, his face draining of color. He turns and runs, screaming for help as he scrambles toward an exit. Desperation overtakes him as he pounds on the security door, shouting for it to open. Suddenly, one of his own men is hurled violently against the door, smashing into it with a sickening crunch. Akamasa spins around in terror. Standing behind him is the same figure, unscathed, eyes burning with fury. Akamasa trembles as he demands to know who he really is. In response, the man steps closer and coldly asks who ordered this attack. When Akamasa hesitates, he warns him that pain will be the price for lying. Panicking, Akamasa finally confesses. He explains that everything was ordered by the Ama family, claiming they wanted the protagonist eliminated because of an arranged marriage involving one of their heirs. Hearing this, our hero's expression darkens. He realizes that the woman's family had been plotting behind the scenes all along. Desperate to save himself, Akamasa tries to bargain, claiming he can be useful. But before he can finish his plea, a devastating punch sends him flying across the room. The blow sends him crashing into a side chamber where several women are being held captive. Chains rattle as they cry out in fear. Our protagonist steps forward, his fury barely contained. He surveys the room and then slowly draws a blade. With swift, precise movements, he slices through the chains binding the captives, freeing them one by one. He turns back toward Akamasa, his eyes burning with cold resolve. Without hesitation, he tells the women they are free and can decide the man's fate themselves. Trembling, Akamasa begs for his life, offering money, influence, anything. One of the women steps forward, fury etched across her face, and declares that death would be too merciful. The others nod in agreement. Our protagonist turns away, activating a healing technique on Shizuru, who lies injured nearby. As her wounds begin to close, he tells her that help is on the way. Faki, barely standing, warns him that the police are closing in and urges him to leave while he still can. After everything that had happened, our protagonist finally allowed himself a moment to breathe. Yet his mind refused to settle. Although Hashimoto had been dealt with, his accomplice was still out there. The danger wasn't over. Just then, the small dog began barking urgently at the door. Alerted, Yaorei went to check and found a man in a formal suit standing outside. The stranger bowed politely and addressed him as Lord Yamori, explaining that he had been sent by President Shuga with an urgent delivery. He handed over a package and added that his employer wished for Yaorei to prepare himself for an upcoming event. Confused, Yaorei brought the package inside and opened it. Inside was an elegant suit. Puzzled, he immediately called Shizuru to ask what this was about. On the other end, she casually explained that the outfit was for a formal gathering hosted by the Hashu family. Hearing that, Yoriai's expression stiffened. Suddenly remembering something important, he asked if the event involved the Amiya family. When Shizuru confirmed it, his expression darkened. The realization hit him hard. This was the family connected to his past. Shizuru explained that the gathering was being held for Yuki Amiya, the daughter of the powerful Amiya clan. Many influential figures would be attending. As Yaorei listened, he felt a faint sense of unease, realizing that fate was pulling him straight into dangerous territory. Later that evening, he arrived at the grand venue. The luxurious hall buzzed with influential guests, all dressed elegantly. As he stepped inside, he immediately sensed an unfamiliar yet powerful presence. Soon, Yuki Amiya made her entrance. The moment she appeared, the atmosphere shifted. A refined aura surrounded her, and even from a distance, Yaorei could sense a trace of cultivation energy radiating from her. Standing beside her was Nana, the matriarch of the Hashu family. Shizuru greeted them warmly, expressing gratitude for their concern regarding her mother. As a gift, she presented the Joyin pill, which immediately caught everyone's attention. The powerful aura emanating from it caused murmurs throughout the hall. Nana examined the pill carefully, astonished by its purity. She praised its quality and asked who had refined it. When Shizuru introduced Yaorei as the creator, both Nana and Yuki were visibly stunned. Nana looked at him with renewed interest and commented that it was a shame someone so talented had been cast aside by the Yim-Ori family. Yuki studied him closely, her expression sharp and unreadable. She remarked that if he truly possessed such talent, things might have turned out very differently for him. Her words carried a subtle edge, hinting at unspoken history. Yaorei realized then that the noble families monopolized cultivation techniques and resources, keeping true talent suppressed unless unless it served their interests. To them, background mattered more than ability. When asked who had taught him such advanced refinement techniques, Yaorei paused. Memories of his past life surfaced, his former strength, his former world. He smiled faintly and replied that he was self-taught. Before the conversation could continue, another presence entered the hall. A tall, imposing man with silver hair strode in confidently, instantly drawing everyone's attention. Nana turned and greeted him warmly, introducing him as Joe Ama, a core member of the Ama family. The moment Yaorei saw him, his expression sharpened. Recognition flashed through his eyes. This was the man tied to everything. Joe's gaze swept across the room before landing on Yaorei. A faint smirk tugged at his lips as he asked who the young man was. Nana introduced Yaorei as a guest and collaborator. The two men locked eyes, tension thick in the air. Without breaking eye contact, Joe extended his hand toward Shizuru in greeting, clearly asserting his presence. As their hands meet, Joe Ama greets him politely, saying he has heard many things about him. Yaorei responds with a faint smile, pretending ignorance as he asks who the man is supposed to be. In that moment, he subtly releases a trace of his spiritual pressure. Unlike ordinary cultivators who hide their strength, he deliberately lets it flow outward. The energy washes over Joe, sending a shock through his body. His expression stiffens as he senses something deeply unsettling. For a brief moment, panic flashes across his face before he quickly masks it with a smile. Recovering, Joe praises him and says it's an honor to finally meet him. He then turns toward Yuki, asking how she has been lately. From a short distance away, Yaorei watches quietly, feeling something off. He can't sense any cultivation from the man at all, which leaves him uneasy. If Joe truly has no cultivation, then how is he connected to everything? As the conversation shifts, the atmosphere relaxes. Guests move into the grand hall where a luxurious banquet has been prepared. Laughter and music fill the room as servants serve wine and delicacies. Soon, an announcement is made that dancing will begin, and couples begin to take to the floor. While adjusting his suit, Yaorei studies the crowd. The more he watches, the more convinced he becomes that Joe is hiding something. Something about him simply doesn't add up. Across the hall, Masami stands alone, holding a glass of wine. A man approaches and invites her to dance, but she declines politely. Another steps forward and is also turned away. Whispers ripple through the crowd as people comment that even the heir of the Katajiri family was rejected. Suddenly, a stir runs through the hall. Several people gasp as they notice someone unexpected approaching. Yaorei turns at the sound of his name being called. A woman steps forward gracefully, her gaze fixed on him. Without hesitation, she extends her hand. The moment feels charged, and the surrounding guests hold their breath. He accepts her hand, and together they step onto the dance floor. Murmurs spread instantly through the crowd. No one expected him to be the one she chose. Outside the hall, a sleek car waits. The driver opens the door for Joe, addressing him respectfully. Before getting in, Joe issues a command for his men to keep everyone else away. The vehicle pulls off smoothly into the night. Inside the car, however, the atmosphere shifts. Without warning, a sharp slap echoes through the space. The man beside Joe reels back, clutching his face in shock. Joe's eyes are cold as ice. He snarls at the man for daring to let another get close to her. His voice is low, dangerous. The man stammers an apology, trembling as he bows repeatedly. Joe leans forward, his gaze filled with menace. He warns him that if he ever allows such a thing to happen again, he won't be forgiven so easily. Outside the venue, the fake Joe steps out of his luxury car. His subordinates immediately bow in respect, addressing him formally. With a cold expression, he orders two of them to follow him inside. As the car door closes, one of the men glances back nervously. Inside the vehicle, the real Joe lies bound and bruised, unable to move or speak. Inside the grand hall, the atmosphere remains lively. Music fills the air as guests mingle, unaware of what has just transpired outside. The imposter approaches Yuki and politely excuses himself, claiming urgent matters require his attention. She watches him leave with confusion in her eyes. At that moment, a ripple of surprise spreads through the crowd. All eyes turn toward the center of the hall, where Masami is dancing gracefully with our protagonist. Her cheeks are lightly flushed as she moves in perfect rhythm with him. He guides her effortlessly, his posture calm and confident. The crowd watches in disbelief. Few expected to see the two together like this. As the music swells, their movements flow naturally, earning quiet admiration from onlookers. Masami smiles softly and tells him he dances surprisingly well. He responds with a modest smile, remembering that the body he now inhabits had once been trained in formal dance. From a distance, Nana observes the pair closely. She asks Yuki if she already knew about his abilities. Yuki replies coolly that she did not, though her eyes linger on him longer than she expects. Nearby, the fake Joe returns and remarks with forced amusement that the man seems quite talented. Nana narrows her eyes slightly, sensing something off. She comments that someone with such composure and ability shouldn't be underestimated. Joe tries to brush it off, insisting that the man is insignificant, but Nana doesn't look convinced. Meanwhile, whispers spread among the guests. Some recognize Yaorei as the disgraced former heir of the Yamori family. Others speculate that he must be trying to regain status by associating with influential figures. The gossip grows louder. Noticing the tension, Yuki suddenly stops dancing. She steps back and announces that she's feeling tired and plans to leave early. Nana sighs softly, watching her go with a troubled expression. As Yuki turns to leave, she pauses and looks back at Yaorei. With a sharp gaze, she accuses him of trying to get close to her for personal gain, believing he wants to restore his family's fallen status. Yaorei looks genuinely confused. He calmly asks what she's talking about, clearly unaware of her assumptions. She scoffs, saying that even if he's talented, using her for influence won't change his fate. With a dismissive tone, she tells him that refining pills won't make him powerful enough to survive in their world. Unbothered, Yaorei lifts his glass and takes a sip, replying calmly that she's overthinking things. He explains calmly that her energy flow is unbalanced, and that forcing her cultivation will eventually harm her body. The realization hits her like a shock. As the music continues to play softly around them, the tension between the two thickens, an unspoken understanding forming beneath the surface. With a calm smile, Yaorei tells her that her problem can be solved. Yuki looks at him skeptically, questioning how someone like him could possibly help. She warns him not to make empty promises. Meeting her gaze, he replies calmly that if she refuses to believe him, then she'll be the one who loses out. His tone carries quiet confidence, enough to make her pause. She realizes time is running out, and that whatever fate awaits her cannot be delayed much longer. He then proposes a deal, one that requires her cooperation. He explains that he needs her to deliver something to the Ama family. The moment he mentions this, her expression tightens. From across the hall, the fake Joe watches the two of them speaking closely. His jaw tightens in irritation as jealousy flickers across his face. The scene shifts outside the hall, where the night air is cool and quiet. Yaorei and Masami walk through the garden paths lined with lanterns. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out to them. Nana approaches, smiling gently. She tells Yaorei she's interested in the pill he mentioned earlier. Curious, she asks him to walk with her. As they move through the garden, she calls him by name and tells him he can simply call her Auntie. Yaorei reminds her calmly that he no longer belongs to the Yamori family. Nana pauses, then says that in truth, Yuki's situation mirrors his own. She explains that after her parents passed away, Yuki was controlled by her uncle, forced into a role she never wanted. Despite her strength, she was trapped. Masami listens closely, surprised, and asks what kind of strength she's talking about. Yaorei explains that Yuki possesses extraordinary cultivation potential, far beyond ordinary people. However, her cultivation method is flawed, slowly damaging her body. Nana nods grimly. She explains that no matter how many doctors or experts they consulted, no one could help. Yuki's condition only worsened with time. Hearing this, Yuriai's expression grows serious. He tells them that the problem isn't incurable, but the method being used is wrong. He adds that if things continue as they are, Yuki's life will shorten rapidly. Masami gasps, shocked by his words. Nana looks at him with renewed hope, asking if he truly believes he can help. Yaorei answers honestly he can try. Nana's eyes light up. She says that if he succeeds, she will support him fully. But then her expression darkens as she mentions that Yuki has already been promised to another family. Hearing this, Yaorei remains calm but thoughtful. At that moment, a familiar voice cuts through the night. The fake Joe steps forward, smiling thinly. He greets Nana politely, pretending he has just arrived. His gaze briefly lingers on Yaorei before shifting away. Nana introduces him, and Joe plays the part perfectly, thanking them for their hospitality. He remarks that he would be pleased if they had the chance to meet again. Yaorei responds with a faint smile, saying the feeling is mutual, and the two shake hands firmly. As their palms meet, a strange surge of energy sparks between them. A serious expression crosses the protagonist's face. Something about this man feels deeply unsettling. A wave of spiritual pressure suddenly radiates from the imposter, and Yaorei instead instinctively senses his strength. Moments later, the fake and his subordinates prepare to leave the gathering. Just then, a guard approaches and announces that there is a gift for Lord Joe from Yuki. Already seated inside the car, the man accepts the blue box, surprised that it came from her. He opens it and finds an origami butterfly inside, unable to understand its meaning. Irritated, he hands the box to one of his men and orders him not to open it without permission. At that moment, the real mastermind reveals himself, annoyed that he had to intervene because of Hashimoto. A faint glow surrounds the ring on his finger as his thoughts drift to Nana Hashisu and the protagonist. A sinister smile spreads across his face as a cold blue aura envelopes him. He vows that they will soon learn the consequences of opposing him. His eyes glow crimson as he plots to use Yuki as a pawn to eliminate them both at once. Beside him stands his double, obediently following every command without question. In the goon's hands, the box begins to tremble as the origami butterfly inside slowly emits a green light. Back on the rooftop, Yaorei stands under the night sky, holding the same glowing origami butterfly in his hand. He gazes at it thoughtfully, remembering the words he spoke earlier. A faint smile curves his lips. "Looks like our paths will cross again," he murmurs quietly. As the city lights glitter below him, the butterfly glides through the city, acting as a silent guide toward its target. Suddenly, it comes to a halt, signaling that the enemy is inside a nearby building. It doesn't take long for him to realize the place belongs to the AMA family. Without hesitation, he prepares for infiltration. Leaping down from the rooftop, he declares with confidence that the real show is about to begin. Elsewhere, Nana Hoshiu carefully tends to her rare plants, each one producing fruit only once every 3 years. She plans to trade these precious items at a cultivator tournament scheduled in 3 months. Just then, an uneasy sensation washes over her. Sensing someone's presence, she calls out, demanding to know who is there. A shadowy figure praises her awareness, especially impressive given her injuries and weakened cultivation. Moments later, a bald monk wrapped in a crimson aura steps forward, remarking that she still hasn't lost her edge. Shocked, Nana Hoshiu realizes the intruders before her are no ordinary foes. She questions their identities and intentions while secretly searching for a way to escape. The bald monk scoffs, asking if the head of the Hashisu family truly believes she can flee. His companion adds that even a lion uses its full strength when hunting a rabbit. From their cautious behavior, Nana Hoshiu quickly understands they are treating her as a serious threat. With a faint smirk, she asks what they truly want. The fat monk orders her to come quietly and warns her not to attempt anything foolish, while the bald monk coldly suggests it would be easier to simply break her arms and legs. In response, Nana Hoshiu touches a strange plant and calmly asks if they know where they are standing. A thick mist suddenly spreads through the air as she releases a toxic gas, declaring that she will entertain them properly. The bald monk is startled, asking what the substance is, while the other quickly covers his mouth, realizing it's a potent poison. She explains that by holding a specific blade of grass in her mouth, the toxin won't affect her, buying her precious time. Knowing she stands no chance against 2 such opponents, she prepares to flee. Suddenly, a pair of crimson eyes appears before her, radiating a terrifying aura. Frozen in shock, she struggles to understand what is happening. A shadowy figure emerges, and she wonders if this is the legendary art of shadows. Realization dawns on her. This man belongs to the Hidden Shadow sect. He confirms her suspicion and coldly reveals that they were the ones who destroyed the 100 Herbs sect. Stunned, she wonders why he is here now, believing their time had not yet come. Then she finally sees his face clearly. A smile forms. The man reveals his identity and asks if she is surprised. Elsewhere, a guard yawns, saying his shift is finally over and he can go grab something to eat. His partner agrees, suggesting a hot bowl of stew to warm up in the cold. One of them wonders aloud what Lord Joe might be eating, assuming it must be something extravagant. Using his shadow movement technique, the protagonist slips past them unnoticed. Holding the talisman, he questions whether this is truly Joe Ama's room. The origami butterfly flutters ahead and stops before a specific door, confirming his suspicion. He approaches carefully, only to realize the man he seeks isn't inside. Meanwhile, the real Joe is elsewhere, slurping instant noodles in a messy, cluttered room. He reflects bitterly that he has never truly had a choice in his life and that nothing has changed even now. As he eats his noodles, he wonders if he was ever meant to live comfortably in a mansion or enjoy proper meals. Holding his fork, the look-alike questions how his life ended up this way. Filled with resentment, he curses his fate, wondering why he must suffer simply because he resembles someone else. His thoughts drift back to the past, when the real one had kept him tied up inside a car. bar. The boss had stared at him coldly, reminding him that everyone knew what would happen if the truth ever came out. With a merciless expression, he had said the look-alike was nothing more than a substitute kept alive for convenience. Bound and in tears, the man realized his only purpose was to serve as a living replacement. Back in the present, he scoffs at the warning not to open the box. Ignoring it, he lifts the lid, and the origami butterfly inside bursts forth in a vivid green glow. Startled, he watches it flutter into the air, completely confused by what he's seeing. Suddenly, a shadow appears behind him. Startled, the fake shouts, asking who's there. In the next instant, a powerful blow sends him crashing to the ground. He screams in pain as the attacker steps forward, eyes burning with cold intent. Staring down at him, the man realizes something is off. There's no spiritual energy at all. He demands to know if the man recognizes him. Terrified, the look-alike recognizes him from the banquet and desperately shouts that he's Joe Ama, begging him to back off. But the intruder's expression hardens. He tells him coldly that he's nothing more than a fake. His eyes glow red as he demands to know where the real Joe Ama is. Elsewhere, a group of men gathers in a dark alley, preparing an ambush. Their leader speaks into a phone, stating confidently that the target always passes through this route. He promises to break the man's limbs and deliver him to Lord Joe without delay. Meanwhile, our protagonist calmly walks toward the trap. As he moves, he contemplates the existence of a spiritual artifact. Such items require immense control and power, something only a fourth-stage cultivator could create. If the AMA family truly possesses a spiritual spring, then everything changes. Resolving himself, he decides that after dealing with Ama, he will seek out the Ryuta spring to evolve further. Just then, the attackers emerge from the shadows, surrounding him on all sides. The leader sneers, saying that our protagonist took far too long to show up. Standing in the narrow alley, the hero faces the group of thugs surrounding him, his presence alone carrying a threatening pressure. The leader scoffs, claiming someone paid a hefty price to have him dealt with for good. A faint purple aura flares around the protagonist as he calmly stares back, a faint smirk on his face. The sight irritates the leader, who demands to know what that look means. Growing furious, he orders his men to attack at once. The thugs rush forward, shouting as they charge, confident that this will be the end. The leader boasts that he personally brought his best men for the job, but in the next instant, his confidence shatters. One by one, his men are struck down with unbelievable speed. Before anyone can react, the protagonist slams one attacker into the ground with a single devastating blow. Another falls just as quickly, sent flying by overwhelming force. Watching in disbelief, the leader stares in shock, unable to comprehend what he's seeing. He blurts out that it's impossible, questioning whether the man before him is even human. With all the attackers lying defeated, the protagonist calmly asks who gave the order to come after him. Elsewhere, at Nanahoshi's residence, the scene is complete chaos. The place has been torn apart, evidence of a violent struggle everywhere. Yuki arrives to find her men investigating the destruction. One of the guards approaches and shows her footage retrieved from the rooftop camera. He explains that around 1 in the morning, 2 monks attacked Nana on the terrace. He adds that there were actually 3 intruders involved. As Yuki watches the footage, her eyes narrow when she recognizes the third figure. It's him. A faint smile forms on her face as she realizes the truth. Not long after, a limousine pulls up in front of a lavish mansion in an upscale district. Holding her phone, Yuki looks determined as she studies the message she just received. Displayed on the screen is a photo along with an address for 32 Emiya Street. Faced with the situation, the young woman confirms that this is indeed the correct location and fixes her gaze on the mansion ahead. Fury burns in her eyes as she realizes that Yaorei went after her relative. Just then, Faki appears with his arm heavily injured, demanding to know why she is here. She glares at him and orders him to take her to Yaorei immediately, convinced that he abducted her aunt. Without arguing, Faki leads her inside and informs her that the man she's looking for is currently in the mansion. As she enters, she notices several men working around the area and wonders if they are all his subordinates. The former gang leader approaches and casually offers her a glass of water. Sitting back in his chair, he turns his head upon hearing her voice and freezes in surprise when he sees her standing there. Yuki steps forward angrily, demanding that he release her aunt at once. Confused, he asks what she's talking about. She storms closer, accusing him directly of kidnapping her relative. Annoyed, he questions why she would think he had anything to do with it. In response, Yuki snaps and shows him footage on her tablet. The recording reveals someone identical to him standing beside Nana on the destroyed rooftop. The figure wears a twisted, sinister smile. Seeing this, realization dawns on the protagonist. Someone had impersonated him to commit the crime. Furious, Yuki demands that he return her aunt immediately or face the consequences. He denies everything, insisting he would never step into her home in the middle of the night. Her expression falters as doubt creeps in. To prove his innocence, the former leader pulls up his message history with Lord Joe as evidence of his whereabouts. Still unconvinced, Yuki presses further, asking about the security footage. In response, he plays another recording he had secretly obtained. In the video, the imposter openly admits to being nothing more than a double sent to act in the real man's place. He even reveals that the true mastermind uses a special ring that allows him to change his appearance at will. Yuki's eyes widen in shock. The idea that Joe possesses such a rare and powerful artifact leaves her stunned. The protagonist confirms her fear. Only someone with a powerful spiritual item could pull off something like that. He explains that the entire plan was meant to frame him from the start. Fury surges through Yuki as she declares she will handle the matter herself. But Yaorei stops her, warning that her aunt is still in grave danger. Panic overtakes her as she asks what she should do, unable to bear the thought of losing her. With a sharp smile, Yaorei reveals his plan. Instead of falling into the trap, they will turn the scheme back on its creator and make Joe dig his own grave.
Guys, that's the end of the video. If you liked this video, please leave a comment in the comment section. Also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Like the video and share it too. Thank you for watching and see you next time again.